right and on your left. Mike Pollock on my left and your right. Richard, of course, is the incumbent, and Mike is a candidate for that ward seat. For Ward 3, the incumbent is Karen Ulick, and the challenger and candidate is Ben Buehler-Garcia. So why don't we start, let's start with the challengers. Mike, would you like to start? 2 minutes to kind of tell everybody why you're the best candidate for Ward 5.
Sure. Hi, thank you for having me today, and I really appreciate you inviting me. This is great. I've been living here for about 5 years now, but I've been coming out here for 25. My mom lives out here, so I feel like I've been a part of Tucson for some time now. And I've been married for 12 years now. I've got 5 children and 3 grandchildren. And I have worked in the aerospace industry for over 20 years, working for Northrop, McDonnell Douglas, the Boeing Company, and Boeing Sea Launch. I have a background in integrated logistics and international shipping, air traffic, delivering aircraft, production, and manufacturing. And one of the unique things when I was working at Sea Launch, I got to travel overseas and work with a lot of international companies, and I understand how major business runs and how we coordinate and make sure those things happen. And I think that will bring a lot to the table here for the city of Tucson, and I believe I can make some better decisions to make Tucson a better place for all of us. And you guys have a choice, and I look forward to answering all of your questions today. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ben, what would you like to say?
Thank you, Shelley. Good morning. My name is Ben Buehler-Garcia. I'm a candidate for Ward 3, Tucson City Council. I'm a 34-year resident of Tucson. I first came to Tucson in 1979 to attend the University of Arizona, where I achieved a public administration degree. I've served 9 years in management at the Tucson Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, and for the last 16 years I've been self-employed doing small business advocacy, master community economic development planning for municipalities and organizations, and also representing private clients with public relations. As some of you probably remember, I ran in 2009, and when people ask why I'm running again, read this morning's paper. That's why I'm running. I'm a Republican that's running on poverty. I volunteered for over 30 organizations in the time I've been here in Tucson. I was part of the group that renovated the historic Fox Theater Foundation. I was one of the founders of the group that turned into Tucson Sports and Tourism Authority. I served 9 years on the City of Tucson's Industrial Development Authority Board, handling hundreds of millions of dollars in bonds for housing. And for the last 9 years, I've served as a volunteer executive director for Stand Up for Kids. And it really touched me when you talked, because we go out on the streets and find homeless teens and street kids. About 25% of whom are on the streets because they came out to their parents. And so I am keenly aware of the situation in our community, and I truly, truly believe that we can do better, and I truly believe I'm the person to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Richard.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning. I'm Richard Fiebres. I'm your councilman in Ward 5. I'm a native Tucsonan. I grew up here. Other than my military time out, I've been in Tucson. I served as your governing board member for Pima Community College for 13 years. I was appointed in 97, had to run in 98, and run again in 2004. Then I was asked by Governor Napolitano to be her highway safety director for the state of Arizona. I served for 6 years with her. I served 6 months with Jan Brewer, and I came back to Tucson, where folks asked me to run for city council. I ran in 2009. I've been married for 35 years. I have 2 great sons. One is getting married in November. We're just talking about extra stress. So there are the things that are happening for us. And I love this community. I'm a product of St. Ambrose School, Tucson High, Paula, Pima Community College, University of Arizona, and Northern Arizona. I care about this community. That's why I've been involved in this community. I think we went through the worst economic downturn that this country's ever faced in this city, and we kept the ship moving forward. And we provided a lot of different programs, and we created sales tax, which is what the city lives on. for the small businesses. It's the heart of the city of Tucson, and we've been moving that forward. And yes, we can talk about pie in the sky ideas, but we're getting the job done. And I think that you see that with the increase in sales tax and the number of businesses that have opened up in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Arnold.
Good morning. I'm so pleased to be here again. My name is Karen Ulick. I serve in the Ward 3 City Council seat, and I hope to earn your vote for re-election in November. I came to Tucson 20 years ago. I assumed the position of Executive Director of the Primavera Foundation. So Primavera brought me here from Michigan. It's an organization that I continue to really respect and support. In addition, I have served in other nonprofit positions, including Deputy Director at SAFE for about 6 months during a transition there. I care deeply about this community and really recognize the importance not only of local government's role in making this a great city, but the role of each and every one of you and the organizations and businesses you represent. I hope you will decide how to vote in this election based upon my record and the positions taken by my opponent in all of these races as well. Clearly, poverty is an issue that matters to me, and I hope you can recognize my record in addressing that issue at the mayor and council table and also in my work in the community. The question, I think, in front of us is whether you have leadership that you trust, someone who will listen to you, someone who will partner with you, and someone who will keep us on the right path moving forward. I do think we've been through incredibly difficult times together, and I'm proud of the fact that even through those most difficult times, I think I've done everything I can to help unify the community and find a path forward that will position us with the greatest strength possible. So I look forward to the specific questions, and I think, I hope you'll judge me on my record because I'm proud of it.
Thank you, Councilman. So I'm going to ask the candidates to get off into kind of the world of imagination for a second. And if you could muster a majority of the council at the first meeting after being sworn in, what is the first piece of city business you would want to pass? And I'm going to start with Mike.
Thank you. Yes, one of the things I would like to do is reduce our city fees and our regulations in hopes that we can start having a better relationship with our business community and creating a better trust so businesses can come to Tucson and be able to start a business without having to go through 17 steps on getting a business started, or larger organizations who want to move headquarters here. But we have to start to have that trust built. And it's not just with outside businesses, it's with our current businesses, like all of you here who have businesses. You need to be able to work with the city, trust us, and know that you're not going to get strangled by regulations and high fees, and be able to do your project in a timely manner.
Karen.
Well, I certainly agree with that point. The issue there is, of course, that we're 4 years down that path already. We've cut hundreds of pages from our land use code. Thanks to Richard Fimbres, the certificates of occupancy to occupy buildings with the new business has been made much simpler and less expensive. So I guess in that sense, we agree that we need to continue on the path of cutting red tape reasonably and responsibly. In terms of what I will be championing, I hope, we still have serious fiscal challenges in front of us, and I think the city budget needs to be looked at with a fresh look. We all have gone over our family budgets and our business budgets to look at ways that we can do things totally differently. We have to, in what is a new economic reality. So one of the key things, I think, is looking at areas of city spending and how we can reduce that spending through partnerships with school districts in Pima County, and also ways that we can just improve efficiencies and address key challenges like our pension.
Great, thank you. Ben?
Thank you, Shelley. 30,000 foot level, I do believe, wow, this could be a very intriguing morning. I agree with you. The first matter of business has to be the city's budget and its financial condition. If the city is not healthy, none of the rest of us can be healthy, whether that's an individual or a business. But you're a business person. What do you do when times are tough? You cut expenses and you increase revenue. Now, in the last several years, the city of Tucson is running pretty bare bones. Some of you may or may not be aware of this, but we're down to about 980 sworn police officers in our community. We're losing 80 of our most senior police officers in 2015 because they're taking early retirement. We've got to address that. Again, you might think that's a personal issue, but it's also a business issue. I know several business people who are moving their businesses out of the city limits specifically because of the crime and the vandalism that's taking place at their properties. So getting the financial house back in order is key. And I believe one of the keys to that is I've been out talking to employees within the city of Tucson. The morale there is terrible because businesses like predictability, and so do employees. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen with their pension fund. They've been promised raises that may or may not be able to give in this year, but also doesn't account for the next 20 years. So getting the fiscal shift is key, and being business friendly, and not just talking about being business friendly, actually being business friendly and changing attitude at City Hall would be my 30,000-foot low priority. There's more details, but you don't have time to get into them now.
Thank you. Our budget is our priority. We have to look at that, and we have weathered the storm, but we need to continue to move forward. Pensions is an issue, and a lot of them have to do with the state legislature and their regulation of the pension fund, because public safety funds are the ones that impact us the most right now. Those are the ones that we're paying a higher end on. We have to deal with the budget. There are a lot of things coming to fruition that we had to push down the road because we did not have it. The good citizens of Tucson spoke on Prop 409, and you're getting your streets repaired because the state legislature, the Republican-held state legislature, have cut her funding and LTAF funding to eliminate the monies that normally would come to us to help us with street repair and street maintenance. Public safety, crime is down. There's larcenies are up. The police department, they're losing command staff because of the drop program. Once they enter the drop, they have to leave after 5 years. So that's something that we're looking at. Our police chief is managing that and also has a training program to get those folks ready to go. The certificate of occupancy that I championed in 2009, and the land use code changes that we have made with the committee of business people has been able, it's 130 pages less now, and it's a better tool. We're not there yet. It's still a tool that needs to be more worked on. But the certificate of occupancy has allowed us, and with the changes of the land use code and the real estate fee that we waived, has brought in 71 new businesses that equates to $425 million new to the city of Tucson. So we have been making things to happen for the small business. I get tired of everybody saying we're anti-business. I ask you to bring me an example of how we are anti-business, because then I will talk to Ernie Duarte and his staff to find out so we can correct the problem. Tell me about your dealings with business, the city of Tucson in the last 3.5 years, not over what happened 8 years or 9 years ago. And that's the perception that we're dealing with right now. And how do we change that perception? Is by continuing to do what we're doing to regulate business. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think there's one question I can get out of the way quickly, and I'm going to do it simply by asking for one-word answers from the candidates. It's 2016. There's a ballot initiative on the state ballot to repeal the amendment to the Arizona State Constitution that prohibits gay and lesbians from marrying each other. It's on the state ballot. It is up for a vote, and my question is, there is a resolution by mayor and council up before the mayor and council to support that state ballot initiative. Will you vote yes or no? And I'm going to start with Richard.
You said one word? Yes.
Ben?
Just to clarify this, the vote for the initiative is to allow people to get married.
You bet.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be some more discussion about that, just based upon some of these cards. But I think that's pretty definitive, and I thought that was going to be the hard question. It's not. I'd like to talk a little bit about annexation. How should the city determine the resources to commit to annexation, and what programs and resources might you cut back or put on hold to make this happen? And let me give you some background for the question. The opportunity in the unincorporated areas to bring money back from the state into the city is huge. It's over $300 billion a year in revenue coming in. Now that might be an exaggeration, but that's what city staff told us on the Small Business Commission. They have a half of one person dedicated to that problem. All of you here as business people know that if you had a $300 million opportunity, you'd probably commit more than half of a staffer to get that going. So the commission has asked the staff to come back and tell us how they evaluate those kinds of opportunities and how they commit resources to revenue opportunities that are that large. And so I'm going to ask each of the candidates about annexation, whether they're in favor of it. The mayor has said he is, and how, as a council person, they would commit resources to making that revenue opportunity work. And I'm going to start with Richard.
Thank you. Annexation is part of the key to getting Tucson back on its feet and moving it forward. Two of the largest annexation that's occurred in the city of Tucson in the last 15 years is the Valencia Crossing annexation in Ward 5. We've incorporated that and we're moving forward. We worked with the Morgan family to get that thing done. The Boneyard is another annexation that's key to our area that's going to allow them to expand their area and bring in double their workforce. So annexation has to be really thoughtful and looked at so that when we're providing services, we're not overcompensating and having to provide more services. But we have a team, and I know the city manager and the mayor are very cognizant of what we're trying to do. He's hired an economic development person that also looks at annexation, and I know that we've been working on that in our areas to look at the things that we're trying to do with the county on increasing annexation possibilities, because we do have to increase our sales tax. The Valencia Crossing alone, annexation will bring, just with the immediate impact, $32 million to the city of Tucson's coffers. So we are looking at this as an avenue to improve the budget situation for the city of Tucson.
Ben?
Thank you, Richard. You know, absolutely, years ago, if you've been in Tucson for any length of time whatsoever, you know that annexation has been a topic of conversation going back decades upon decades upon decades, back to Mayor Murphy and before. Clearly, annexation is an issue we need to address and aggressively attack here in Tucson, but the question is how you do it. Regardless of what you'll hear up here, frankly, Tucson does have a reputation built over years, much of it happening before these current incumbents run city council, as being business anti-friendly. Maybe many of the people that you will approach to vote to be annexed in the city remember those things. So you've got to aggressively work to start changing that attitude, and you change it by providing examples. I believe the way we need to approach annexation is in small bites. We need some quick and easy victories, so then you've got the opportunity to show those other people, hey, we can do it right, we can represent you properly. And those small bites ideally should be focused on areas where we have a high intensity of commercial uses, so for that small bite you're getting the most return as far as tax revenue. So that's the way I would start, but definitely we have to do it. Now, one other thing I'd like to mention though is something that also has changed is we also now have communities around us who are acting much more aggressively. Sabanita, Marana, Oro Valley, some of these other communities, we now have competition as the city of Tucson. So we have to be focused on that and focus on it every single day because they're beating us. I'll tell you right now that Costco that didn't get done at I-19 in Irvington, I would not be surprised if that Costco gets built down in Sabanita, our Sam's Club, and we lose that revenue.
Well, I think we all agree annexation is critical, and I think that what is important to understand is, again, some of the history that Ben's alluding to and what progress we have made in terms of annexations like the one Richard alludes to. We're having tremendous success in strategic annexations of commercial areas, which will really help the city of Tucson. I don't view us in competition with Marana, Sahuarita, Vail. In fact, what we have identified is the importance of an annexation and incorporation strategy. We want Vail to incorporate as a city because they will pull down revenue sharing. We are in this valley together, and one of the key things that we have to stop doing is seeing our neighbors in this valley as competitors. We drive the cost up of everything when we do that, and we end up undermining the success of the entire region. So I think we have strategic success, and let me point to one example of why that perspective is so important. We have a new water policy in Tucson. We used to provide water to anybody in this valley based on demand. You ask for it, you get it. That is not sustainable for Tucson water. We now have a policy that indicates that if you want water service and you're adjacent to our city limits, you have to consider annexing. That approach has been in place in Maricopa County forever. But because of this notion that somehow Tucson should start every negotiation on its knees, apologizing for who we are and the city that we are and the needs that we have as a community, we end up basically buried under the ground, giving away water of all things, without an appropriate return on that investment. So two things, let's collaborate more with our partners, and let's get off our knees and not be afraid to say, you know what, if you want to benefit from the services of the city of Tucson, you need to join our community and be a contributor.
Okay, yeah, I've got a little bit of a different view on annexation. I think annexation can be good, but we have to be able to manage it because those tax dollars that come in have to be spent on legitimate projects for the city, not just spent on anything. That's part of the budgeting. But we can't use annexation to use it as a Band-Aid fix for an intermediate fix on the budgets. And it sounds kind of like what's been happening. If we do an annexation, those areas, those people have to trust us, the businesses have to trust us and know that their tax dollars are going to be spent wisely in the areas they need to be spent in. So again, it comes back to a trust issue with the residents, and is the city going to work for them and do the right thing?
I'm going to ask a follow-up on annexation because I think it's very important. I was up in Marana Chamber yesterday. We had a SACA meeting, the Southern Arizona Chamber of Commerce Alliance meeting yesterday, and it is true. Oro Valley is going to do some annexations right in our backyard. My question specifically was, if you believe that annexation is the right thing for the city to be doing, how do you determine how much resources you should be putting into that effort? And if budgets are tight and something else has to give in order to get more resources to the people doing annexation and promoting annexation, where will that come from? I'm going to start with Karen.
The way to encourage people to annex is to have the top-notch basic services in place, the best public safety services, the best roads, the best infrastructure. So in other words, I think the best way to accomplish annexation isn't to think that if we have more money, more professionals, more salespeople necessarily. What we need is the best product available to offer for people to buy into. And that is why our focus as a mayor and council really is the core services. Public safety investments. We have dropped our staffing from 5,500 to 4,500 employees over the last 4 years. Except for public safety, we have held the same ratio per 1,000 residents. So we have prioritized appropriately there. As Richard said, we have a bond now for our streets. So we've got to get the basics done right, and then Tucson, come on, we're all here because the city does sell itself. We're here because we love this community, because it has so much to offer. Let's build on that strength.
Okay, yeah, I do agree with that. Our public services, like for the police department, how are we going to staff them properly, and how much tax revenue is coming in for that annexed area, and how are we going to manage that in the budget? Because a lot of times you see all these great colorful charts that they put together for the budget review, but they don't actually show a lot of numbers. I think we need to get more detailed and find out how we can shift our budgets if we're going to annex, but we have to really put a package together to those people and say, this is what we have to offer. And they have to be able to look at that and say, okay, well, what are my how is it going to affect my taxes? Is it going to affect my property taxes, my sales tax? Right now, we have a 9.1% sales tax in Tucson. I believe 2% of that is city tax, and the rest of that is state tax. But those citizens are going to want to understand how we're going to support them properly, because if they see the city now where they're not being supported by police officers, like my own house was broken into. It took them almost 20 minutes to get there, which is pretty quick. A week later, my neighbor's house was broken into. It took them 2 days to get there, and she's a single female. So when people are looking at how are you going to support me, they're going to look at things like that. How is the crime rate? And actually, our crime rate has been pretty high in the area that I live in, the South Tucson area, with break-ins lately. So let's get the trust in there. That's a trust factor to get these other residents wanting to come into our area.
And real quick, we're running a little short.
Yes, the short answer, I do agree with Karen, but I disagree with Karen. She's absolutely right. The way the city of Tucson does annexation is provide a community where people want to live and work and have fun. And ladies and gentlemen, honestly, step out of here today and look around. Look around your neighborhood. Is this the city you want? Honestly, be honest with yourself. It's not. We're losing people. The reason the police ratio is maintained the same is because we've lost population. We have 20,000 less Tucsonans employed today than we did in 2009 when Karen was elected. Be honest with yourself. She's absolutely right. You focus on the business of the cities to recruit, so you can actually recruit more annexations. Look around. Do you think it's been happening over the last 4 years?
Annexations are important part of the budget plan that we're looking at, but they also have to pay for themselves. You got to make sure that we're doing the best things we can for the citizens of Tucson. And we got to make sure that the support services that we have, we can do. We can't just annex areas that we're not going to be able to provide the support that is needed to get those things to be progressive and to become a positive side for us. I think that you see the annexations that we have done in the last 5 years are very cost effective. And they are important, and we are looking at this thing because it helps build our sales tax base, which the city lives on.
Thank you. Looking at these questions, the majority, or I should say the most questions on one subject that I've gotten, besides gay marriage, was a question getting back to this area of, are we business friendly? Perception, you know, we say in marketing, is perception is reality. And so when I take a look at these questions, I see at least a perception problem. And so I'm going to ask each of the panelists one thing that they would propose to make us more business friendly. And let's start with Mike.
I'm the first guy today a lot here. Okay, that's okay.
Maybe not.
No, it's about trust. We have to work with our business community better. Bottom line, we've got to work with the business community better, otherwise we don't have anything.
Do you have a specific?
Specifically, work with our businesses and get suggestions from them. Have forums with our businesses. You guys tell us what you need to make your businesses work better.